Hi, I am Chef Sabrina Tinsley, and I'm here with Mahogany Williams, Chef Mahogany Williams, from AKA the Pickled Chef. Hi, Mahogany. How's it going?
It's going really well, Chef. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about your background, how you got started, where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's, I'm a Washington native. I was born and raised in Tacoma, Washington, to my mom, who was going to school down there at the time at UPS. And Tacoma is where I went to school, grade school, and a lot of my friends are still there, and it has a special place in my heart, Tacoma. And Tacoma is actually where my mom bought her first house, and I can remember her cooking in the kitchen almost every night for us. One of her favorite and my most memorable meals of hers is gumbo. And she's got about two types of gumbo. You have your regular gumbo that you make during the week, and then the special gumbo that has like the snow crab and big shrimp and 3 different kinds of meats in there, and that's an all-day gumbo. And that just brings special, special memories for me. And the smell of it, I know when it's cooking. So that's probably one of my first food memories and one of the reasons I cook every day.
That's wonderful. So the seeds of passion were sown early in your childhood. When did you decide you wanted to cook professionally?
You know, it was a journey to cook professionally for me. I started at the age of 14 at Ivar's, my first job, and they didn't have anybody in the kitchen that looked like me, especially a woman. And I got back there one day because somebody called out sick, and I worked the fryers, and I ran a $500 lunch, and they were like, okay, you can now be back there and be a fry cook, excuse me. And that was my start at 14, and then I worked at a couple different pizza places. I did a long stint at the Kingfish Cafe up until about 21, and then I moved into bartending, and I got kind of a little burnt out on food for a moment, and I lost the passion, and I'll admit that. And it was probably another 10 years of working different jobs, but these jobs had me traveling. And I got to go to places like Chicago and eat at certain restaurants like Art Smith's restaurant, Table 52, and just having these amazing food experiences really kind of started to weigh on me, knowing that I was missing out on what I actually loved, which was cooking food, my food, fresh food, and being in the kitchen environment. It's fun back there. I mean, it's kind of like you go to war almost every day right before that time comes when every restaurant is full and the kitchen is bumping and the ticket machine is going. So it's something that I learned to have another passion for as I got older, and a real appreciation for, and knowing that this is something I want to do. And I walked away from a very successful sales career to go back to culinary school, Seattle Culinary Academy, which has great instructors, and that really kind of a light switched halfway through culinary school where I really knew this is where I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, this is what I am, this is what I want to be. I want to be a chef, and hopefully one day a successful chef and restaurateur when all said and done. So I'm laying the foundation now and working my way up, and I've honestly been happier.
So pandemic happens, and you decided that you were going to do your own thing. Tell us a little bit about that project, and how is it going, and how are you operating?
Okay, well that project, that came out of me living in my parents' garage for a little bit, and kind of during the pandemic going through this kind of 7 stages of, do I want to still cook? Is cooking still feasible? Will restaurants even be around in a year or so? Having all those fears and doubts. And then I just kind of, something clicked to me, and something that I've always had a little mantra to myself: never be afraid to invest in yourself. And you have to be confident that if you invest in yourself, others will invest in you. And so I thought, this isn't the time to run from the food industry. This is the time to go all in, actually. This is the time to go a little berserk about it, be bullheaded, homerish about it, and just say, I'm going to make it through this. And that's what I have to do every day. And so I actually got this big piece of paper, tied it up to the wall, and I started writing ideas. And first it was 2 chickens and a chef, or 2 birds and a chef. And then something came to me because I was eating pickles, and I thought, the Pickled Chef. Why don't I just call it the Pickled Chef and come up with a pop-up catering business that can operate outside of a commissary kitchen or someone else's kitchen, and we will do different days a week and have different themes. And that's kind of how it just started. I just kept writing down, and then I thought, okay, narrow it down. You have to start narrowing down. What is going to be my signature dish? And that's when I really started working with pickling chicken, which is something I learned about when I lived down in New Orleans and did a stage down there. You walk into the stores down there and you'll see meats in jars that are pickled, you know, tongues and feet and chicken and all these other things that they do to preserve meat because sometimes you're out of power down there and sometimes a hurricane hits and you've got to just make do. So that's where I came up with, dill pickled fried chicken. That's going to be one of my signature dishes. And that's kind of where it started. And I just grew from there, and I've got about 5 or 6 set menu items that I like to do, and I rotate them throughout the week. And
That's great. And so you're working out of a kitchen, a commissary kitchen, and then it's pickup meals. Is that?
It is. It's pickup meals. We have we call it the pickle pickup time, and it's usually on Friday and Saturdays. And we have a set time, and we like people to come and place orders on our website, thepickedchef.com, and pick what you want to eat, come pick it up. It'll be all ready to go, masked up. I bring it out to your car, and it's pretty simple. And then, as I said, we're evolving, and so we're actually going to be moving into the farmers market come springtime as a more set location and a better way to reach people who are out and about and can eat it right then and there and in the open air, safe environment. So that's how we keep moving on.
So you'll sell your hot food ready to eat at the markets,
Yep.
and you also do pickled vegetables, don't you?
I
Do
do.
you can your vegetables?
Yeah, I do the little mason jars because I love mason jars. It's always my favorite. I drink out of those. My whole kitchen is full of them. And so I like to do pickled cucumbers, but I also like to use a tea pickling liquid. Tea pickled fruit in general, and just using different pickling methods to flavor vegetables and fruits throughout the year.
So tell me about some of your most memorable travels and some of your mentors. Let's talk about your mentors too.
Well, I'll admit that I'm like a chef fangirl. Like, I definitely stalk a few chefs. One of the ones that I've stalked for a very long time is Tamara Murphy. I was there opening month at Terra Plata, and watching her back there and having her dishes was amazing. And then I've also gotten to work under Chef Nina Compton at her new restaurant, Bywater American Bistro in New Orleans. And that was an experience. I mean, the flavors she's using, how organized her kitchen was, how the brigade system worked. I mean, it was all such a learning experience and such a, this is what I want to be doing. And then the food. I mean, she was able to mix her Caribbean, Jamaican background with her years at working in an amazing Italian restaurant in New York to her time on Top Chef. I mean, she put it all together. I mean, there was a rabbit curry stew that I could still remember. The flavor. Also, I spent numerous days under Chef Greg Saunier, who worked under Chef Paul Padone, and they worked at the Commander's Palace in New Orleans, so that's that lineage right there of just old school chefs, and what he taught me was just amazing. I mean, what he does with food and flavor, he has this pot that's always on the stove, and it's his pot liquor, and he just keeps adding to it and takes some of the stuff out. It has a strainer in there, but this liquid in there is just so flavorful. And it's just got ends of all the vegetables and bone parts and, peels of oranges. And it's just a flavorful stock that he uses to cook with all the time. And it's always going. And his roux is a 24-hour roux that he has in the oven all the time. I mean, there's always a roux going. And that will always stick with me. And how he did gumbo. I mean, that was the first time I saw where you cook the meat separate and then you put it all together. And I never thought about it that way. Like gumbo, you always put everything in one pot. But by cooking some things separately, you're still having all the flavors. You were able to serve it restaurant style, and it looked more refined. And more, I can see how it garnered more respect from people who would never eat gumbo, who thought it was such a kind of a peasant dish. That it was a beautiful dish, and it was duck gumbo, and it was delicious. And he taught me a lot. I mean, he taught me how to break down rabbits and rack of lamb really quickly, and skinning catfish. I mean, just all of it was just an experience, very hands-on. And once he showed me once, he just let me do it. And by the end of that stage, I was cooking on a line with him, and we were doing 30, 40 covers, and just having a really great time. And that was, I'm really appreciative of Chef Greg. He just really influenced me as far as you can refine this Southern food, and you can make it very elegant. So those are some of my best memories.
That's awesome. And I also remember a photo of you with Chef Leah Chase.
Yes, Chef Leah Chase.
How could I ever forget her or not mention her? She is, I mean, honestly, I've read her books over and over again. She used to have a cooking show on PBS. It was Emerald, and then she would come on, and I would just run to watch her. And she's just so influential. And to meet her once was just epic for me. I got to meet her about 6 months before she passed. We were at her restaurant, and because Gabriella's, the restaurant I worked at, was just a street down from her. And she actually had to give permission for them to open up. And like she even just called the mayor and was like, no, let them open up their restaurant. I mean, her making a call made that restaurant open. And that's the respect she has. I mean, if she says something, it just happens. And we got to talk for about 20 minutes, talked about food, life. She walked me around her kitchen. She told me how she loves Crown Royale. And then she signed my book for me and something she left for me. And I read this quite often. It says, to Mahogany, life is for living. Enjoy each day being a great chef and grateful, and you will succeed. Miss Chef Leah Chase. And that's what she wrote. Yeah. So I'll remember those words forever. And I keep this book very close to me. Even when I went to Italy, I brought this book with me, like hands on. Like I just had to have it with me. It was special meeting her. And she's definitely somebody that I want to embody, but also kind of take even more and make sure I stay myself, as she says, but also just kind of make sure I bring the heritage with me and the knowledge and keep this going on and make sure that people know she existed and that her food was amazing. And to live what she lived through and to open a restaurant during Jim Crow era. And the reason she opened that restaurant, her and her husband, was to give a place for Black people to have a respectful dinner and to have their weddings and their special occasions and to do it with dignity during a time when they weren't given dignity in the United States. So it's a real pleasure to have met her and to continue on the legacy and to always mention her name and to make sure people know Miss Chef Leah Chase existed, she was here, and this is the reason my food tastes the way it is. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Let's talk about what you're going to be making for our customers.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I think the first opening week we're going to start with the green gumbo. It's one of Chef's recipes in here. I think it's on page 54. And I call it a green gumbo. It is still the green gumbo. We're just going to make it vegetarian this time. And we're keeping out the meats. Generally, green gumbo has about 3 different porks in there. And it's in the pot liquor. And it's kind of for flavor. But I replaced the pork with mushrooms and kind of went with a more umami and added a little bit of soy sauce. And flavored it a little bit and a little spice in there, and it's really delicious. And we're going to put it over some Uncle Ben's rice because I like Uncle Ben's rice. I also love Carolina Gold rice too. I know that they're competitors if you ask people from the South, but I love Uncle Ben's and I grew up on Uncle Ben's, so that's how I do. And then our second dish is oxtails stewed with okra with a nice little gravy over cheesy polenta. And that's just a dish that I was actually introduced to as I got older. I don't think I would have eaten oxtails as a child. I was pretty particular, as my mom said. I would only eat Lucky Charms or her cooking, or gumbo. She was surprised that I really loved gumbo, but everything else I was pretty particular about and had to pick at it and look at it. So, but now I love oxtails, and apparently everybody else does now too, because now they're kind of hard to find and they're expensive. It used to be a very throwaway meat. I mean, you could go to the butcher's and they would give it to you for free back in the day, and now it's $7.99, $10.99 a pound, and it's delicious if you cook it right and get a nice sear on there, and then get a nice little sauce and let it reduce down slowly in a nice little gravy, and it's pour that over the polenta. Delicious.
Mouth is watering. I cannot wait to try it. And then you have a little salad starter as well. Let's talk about that.
We're doing the radicchio cups, getting some nice radicchio, keeping it long and thin, and then I'm going to be roasting some beets, some carrots, and some pickled red onions. I'm going to toss it all in a dill pickled vinaigrette. So I'm taking dill pickles, I'm blending that up, I'm adding a little oil, a little fresh dill, salt, pepper, and that's kind of it. It's a really tangy bite. And then on top of it, it'll be finished with toasted spicy pumpkin seeds and just a little bite of flavor for you.
Such a nice balance. It sounds like, sweet, sour, spicy. It's going to be delicious and crunchy. I can't wait to try that either. Wonderful. Let's get cooking.
Yeah.